President Biden in this brand new sit-down interview saying he's not confident there will be a peaceful transfer of power come November if former President Trump loses. But you heard him focus in on local election officials in these remarks, saying, look what Trump is, quote, doing with local election districts where they count the votes. It is ultimately up to those thousands of officials to certify election results in their counties. All eyes are on swing state officials now. And an exclusive report from Rolling Stone claiming that among these key local officials, a significant number are election deniers, they say, possibly acting to aid the Trump campaign. All right, joining us now is the journalist behind this report, Justin Glawe. He's also the creator of American Doom, a Substack newsletter. Justin, we appreciate you taking the time on this. And you say in this article, nearly 70 election officials in key battleground counties are pro-Trump conspiracists who are in a prime position to act on their beliefs and aid Trump's campaign. Tell me more about this. Who are these officials? Which states do they represent?
Yeah, we looked at the swing states. We looked at 6 swing states for this story. And, you know, I should note that this isn't really coming directly from the Trump campaign. This is what I kind of think of as a decentralized network of pro-Trump Republicans who are also local election officials. And they are officials on county election boards in Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Nevada. And they have either already refused to certify results or have expressed belief in election conspiracy theories on their social media platforms, which is how we found some of them.
Okay, I appreciate you flagging what makes them so-called election deniers. What kinds of consequences could this large-scale certification refusal movement have on our 2024 presidential election?
Well, you know, courts have pretty much determined that the certification process is, you know, what's called ministerial. It's not really up to the discretion of these election officials, but that doesn't prevent and hasn't prevented them from withholding certification of results more than 24 times since 2020. So, you know, the answer to your question is sort of an unknown. I mean, I think that if there are mass refusals to certify, they'll sort of get struck down in court relatively quickly. But I think the larger point is that those refusals to certify could really do some pretty significant damage to the public's trust in elections. And that, I think, is the larger danger.
What does this mean for democracy?
It means that what was once thought of as a ministerial part of the pageantry of democracy has now been determined by pro-Trump election deniers to be another mechanism that they can use to call election results into question.
Worst case scenario, if Trump does not win and there is a large-scale certification refusal movement, what does that actually look like? Will it eventually be resolved in the courts rather quickly, as you're saying, or is there a fair amount of opportunity for chaos in the country as this is happening?
I mean, I think that there's 2 forms of chaos. There's a legal chaos that will result from a bunch of refusals to certify. And then I think that there is the potential for worse chaos in the form of people believing that these refusals to certify lend credibility to what I think are probably going to be false claims of widespread voter fraud that the Trump campaign will engage in the event that they lose, especially in these swing states. And that's why I mentioned that larger danger, that it's not that these refusals to certify can actually stop the votes from being counted or that can overturn in November. It's that they can cause people to get even more riled up than they already are over these false claims of widespread election.
And the erosion of the confidence, as you said. What can be done? Can voters do anything about this? Can officials do anything? How can this be avoided?
Well, most of these officials, almost all of them, in fact, are appointed. So they are not elected officials. And that's a good question because it's one that's been posed to me a lot in the wake of this story. And really, I think the best thing that people can do is pay attention to what their county election boards are doing. And who is staffing those boards and whether or not some of these election deniers on their board. I mean, when I started this project almost 4 years ago, my initial thought was, you know, that sunlight is probably the best thing to alleviate what could be a really thing for democracy.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.